Hi, it's Laura with Following the Paper Trail, and today I have the October Bird Abode to show you. A little bit later than I had hoped to get this video done, but at least we're getting there. This Bird Abode is part of the series of monthly bird houses. This is the obviously October. Hello, and this one is fun. It is using Kaiser Craft papers, which are kind of photo real papers of different kind of building elements, that sort of thing. So this has got a couple of different woods. It's got the clay tile, so the paper makes it look incredibly detailed without it necessarily having to be detailed. It has some little barn doors on the front. Mini album's going to fit down inside of there. Little clasp that closes it. It's got a little top roof section here. And then on the mini album, let's set this aside, the mini album as well, it's kind of tiny so that it fits inside. It has a fun binding that I will show you. And then because it's a barn-like album, barn-like birdhouse, having some little owl type pages inside. So they have little tags that then slip down inside, and then this will fit inside your birdhouse. So let's go ahead and get started with the birdhouse. To begin with, we got to make the base. So we're going to kind of do this in sections as we move up the birdhouse. So we'll make the base to start with, then we'll make the main body, then we'll do the roof, and then we'll do this top roof section. So to start with, we're going to make the base, and I've pre-set some of the stuff up so that we can just keep moving along with this. We are going to be using 3/4 inch wide construction strips to attach our pieces of chipboard together. These are cut 3/4 of an inch wide. You're going to score them down the center line, or at 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm adding score tape or other strong adhesives, just the 1/4 inch, on each side of that fold. So you're going to fold them at the score line. That's how we're going to attach our pieces together. I've already pre-attached them to my base piece. When you fold your construction strips in half, you're going to line that fold up with the edge of the chipboard and attach to the inside of your chipboard. These construction strips with seams abutting, which what we're going to be doing, are on the inside of the birdhouse and not on the outside. So you're not having to allow for a gap, that sort of thing. So I can peel off the paper backing off of one of these strips, take one of my outside edge strips, and I'm just going to butt that seam right up, nice and snug up against there, and then drop that down. And so then it becomes almost like a hinge on the inside, but it gives you a nice clean seam here on the outside. And I'm going to work my way around for all 4 sides to put those on. And I feel a sneeze coming on, and hopefully I can hold it back, because I hate sneezing when I'm trying to do videos. Alright, so we'll work around to our 4th side, and then I've also got some little construction strip pieces that I've cut, because I'm going to turn this into the 3D kind of box-like structure. I've got to put these also at my corners, again lining up the edge of the strip with the edge of the chipboard. And I'm just going to go around and make sure there's one at each of the corners. And then we can turn this into 3D, so to speak. So since we got all 4 of them on, then we can peel off the paper backing on the ones that are there. Peel off all 4 of them at once, and then we're going to bring those corners up to where the corners of the chipboard are just touching up to each other. They're not overlapping one or the other. It's just touching, kind of a kissing corner, as I like to call them. And so each of the 4 corners we'll do that with. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and burnish in all of the construction strips to make sure that my adhesive is well engaged with my chipboard. So that creates our little base piece. So now we're ready to start covering with pattern paper. And as you can see on this one, my birdhouse itself is set back in. So I've cut my paper to where it lines up with this bottom edge, but it's going to extend up and fold over far enough to cover this 1/2 inch that the body of the birdhouse sets in from the edge. So I've cut my strips a little bit longer. Now 2 of these strips is not quite enough, so I have a little extra piece as well. But I'm going to go ahead and attach these, and I'm going to use my score tape, which is suddenly I look up and it's hiding, and I'm going to attach it at both the top and the bottom edge. You can also do this obviously with glue as well. And I'm just going to take this and run this around the entire circumference in one big long strip. And I'll do one along the top edge as well. If this were a deeper base this way, I would probably want to put it on each side of the corners, but because this is pretty shallow of a base, just doing this at the top and bottom edges is going to be sufficient. I am, however, going to run it around the top edge of the paper that I'm covering my base with. Now this is slightly different paper than those who purchase the kits from me, which unfortunately are sold out. It's slightly different paper. I'm out of the paper that I actually used in the kit. This is just the flip side of the paper that I used on the body of the birdhouse. And as I said before, these are Kaisercraft base coat papers. Now on this piece, because I know it's going to have to splice in, I'm going to run my score tape along each side and the top edge, because it's going to sit on top of the others. But I know just from experience, if it were just covering just these sides, it would be exactly the right length, the 6 inches, but because it has to wrap around the corners, it's not. Now when I start this, I'm going to start my paper kind of in the center of one of the sides. And I'm going to line up the edge of my paper, and I want it to wrap my corner, so I'm going to set it so that it's hanging over on one side. And I'm going to line up that bottom edge with the edge of my chipboard, and so you can see this is the part that'll fold over. So we can keep working our way around, lining that up. So then I can take this guy, go ahead and splice it on, making sure my tape parts are in the same place. Now I'm just butting it right up rather than with the striations in the paper, you don't even see it. So rather than overlapping it, then we're getting all the way around to this side, and as you can see what I mean, isn't that the way it always works? So we're just about 1/4 of an inch short, and that's why I have this little extra piece in here. And we'll just cover over to center it on that. And nobody's any the wiser that we've done that. So, alright, so then at my corners, I'm going to take, sometimes it's a little bit easier if you give it a little bit of a fold so you know exactly where the corner is, and then we're going to just cut out some wedges at our corners down to the chipboard. So I'm just going to cut little wedges out at each of the corners. They don't have to be at 45. Oh, it's a little bit. You don't want to go over 45 degrees because then they won't overlap on each other. I'm cutting these kind of shallow, so I'll go a little bit deeper. There we go. Alright, and by having that tape on there already, it's a whole lot easier than having to put the tape on there. So by putting it on beforehand, it just makes things that much easier. So then I'm going to take and just wrap and roll and wrap. Just roll this onto onto the top of the base. And I'm just going to take my bone folder. Go over that. You can also, if you had wanted to, you could put a row of tape around at the top of the base, but it's not critical to do that. It makes it puff a little bit at those corners. But so there's my base. So now we can go ahead and set our base aside. And next up, we're going to do the body of the birdhouse. Now you're going to have 4 pieces of your side, one of which you're going to cut an opening in so that you have 1/2 inch on each side. And this is going to give you the opening in order to fit your mini album through into your birdhouse. It's a tight squeeze. It's a tight squeeze, but I wanted to make the birdhouse or the mini album as big as I could for the pictures to go inside. So we're going to be doing the same sort of thing. On 2 of the pieces, I've added construction strips on each side, and we're going to be butting our seams up, and we're going to alternate the ones that I have the strips on with the ones that I don't. And just line up the top and bottom, butt that up nice and snug, and put that strip down. Actually, let's go ahead and put this guy in there first. So we're going to just attach the 4 sides together. Attach this guy on there. Then technically you should be able to just lay these over on top of each other. Sometimes it doesn't always line up perfectly that way because, you know, we're not machines, so we haven't cut it exactly. But line that up towards just butting up to itself. And there we have our 4-sided box. Let me scroll down on the pattern, make sure that I'm following. Next up, what we're going to do with this one is we are going to cover it with some pattern paper. And this is where we're bringing in this cool one. Now I've got this all prepped to ready to put on. And you're going to need this is 6 inches tall, so you're going to need 2 6-inch tall pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach this on and just go over the hole as if it's not a hole. But I do want to, around the opening, I do want to put some score tape around that opening before I cover it over. So I'll just, there's other strong adhesive type tapes, magic tape, that kind of thing, that you can use as well. But you don't want it to just be, you know, your basic kind of tape runner. It's not that, those aren't strong enough adhesives for when you're doing the 3D type projects. You want what I call an aggressive type of tape, and there are multiple ones out there and available. Kind of comes down to, you know, with adhesives, I always look upon adhesives as being very subjective. I'm going to go ahead and run these on the sides of my seams as well because this is taller, and you'll just find your adherence will be cleaner that way. But I find adhesives are very subjective. You kind of got to work with what you end up liking, you know, experiment and try different adhesives till you find one that you like. Climate that you live in can affect adhesives. So something that works for me, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, may not work for somebody who's like down in Arizona in the dry desert, or, you know, in other, over in Europe, you might not be able to get the same ones. So with adhesives, you want to kind of experiment a little and find what is going to work best for you. Alright, so I've got that on each side. Now I didn't do it on this front because I've got some right here at the doorway. Most of the time, I'm just going to peel off one before I stick everything down, because it tends to go and really glue on. Now I'm going to use the taller one and kind of estimate the center. So I do have my tape on the top and bottom and the entire perimeter on the back side of these. So I'm going to line this up to where it lines up with my bottom edge. So right now I've only got that bottom edge stuck down, and so, you know, it was easier to maneuver around without it accidentally grabbing onto a part that I didn't want it to grab onto. If I keep my hand under there while I'm pulling this off, it's not going to stick down. So I need to pull it off this top and bottom edge too. So now I can just lay this down, and it should all line up perfectly at my top and my bottom edges. And then I'm going to peel off here, and I can peel off here, and I can wrap this around. Now I want this to be relatively close to a 90-degree angle when I'm wrapping it around. You don't want it to be laying flat, because then it won't wrap around your corner cleanly. So we've wrapped that at a 90 degree. We're going to do the same thing down at this end at that 90 degree, because it's got to go further. The paper's got to go around that corner, so it takes more distance than if it were, you don't want to like lay it flat and do it that way. So we want to keep it at kind of that 90 degrees and make sure that this is lining up with my top edge. Go ahead and stick that down. You can pull it up a little bit if you need to. I haven't really burnished it in place. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to do the same with this one. Again, kind of eyeball it into the center. Check and make sure it's going to overlap. It will. That'll work. Go ahead and just pull off that bottom edge where I can get it lined up without it glomming on too soon. Stick that down. Now I can reach under and peel the paper off of these guys. Obviously you can also use a wet glue to attach these. It just takes a little bit more patience and time, because you got to wait for the glue to dry before you can really do much manipulation. So I'm going to go ahead and peel it off of these other corners as well. I'm going to peel it off of this too. Alright, so let's let it lay down flat. Now I can peel off here. Also peel off here. I know, I go through a ton of score tape. Oh, I hate it when it doesn't want to pull off. Every once in a while, one of them gets ornery and wants to be particular. Again, when it's about a 90 degree, go ahead and wrap it around to the side. Same thing on this last side. Alright, so now it's like, well, you've covered up the opening. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach down inside there. I'm going to use a craft knife, and I'm going to cut this out roughly 1/2 inch-ish in, and I'll show you here in just a minute what I'm doing so that you can see. At this point I can kick my scissors probably on the outside just as easily now that I got the hole in there. And this is all going to fold to the inside, so it doesn't have to be perfect and pretty. So I just wanted to cut an opening, and now you can see inside it's approximately 1/2 inch at these corners. I'm going to feel underneath there, and I'm going to trim it to the corner. Sometimes you can see doing it from the back side, looking on the inside, a little bit easier. I'm cutting so you can make sure you're going straight to the corner. So then we're going to just take and roll these to the inside to wrap and attach. So I can take and put some score tape or glue on the inside. I'm just going to glue this a little bit faster. Those little tabs, I'm just going to roll them to the inside, glue them down. Ugh, I got glue all over my fingers now. That was smart. That's what jeans are for, right? Give it a burnishing with the edge of my, and it wraps a little faster and easier that way. Don't get over exuberant with your glue, or it squirts out like it just did there. When you want a bunch of glue to come out, it won't. When you want no glue, it comes out in excess. Isn't that just the law of glue? Okay, let's reach inside here and do some more. Right, this is a brand new bottle too, so it's coming out wicked fast. Alright, so stick that one down real quick. I have a snoring chihuahua next to my desk. I swear he only snores when I'm doing something that I'm filming. He doesn't snore any other time. So. Alright, so we've got our opening all made. Now we're going to put construction strips around the top and the bottom edge in order to attach it to our base, which we're going to do here shortly, and also to attach our roof line on there. So I just cut these guys. I make up a whole bunch in advance and then trim them as needed. I also then tab, what I call tabbing the corners. So I fold them in half and just cut them at a slight angle. That way they don't interfere with the corners and such. So I have these little shard-like pieces all over my studio. Anybody ever wants confetti, just give me a shot. I can get you a ton of confetti. And again, lining up the fold of your construction strip with the edge of the chipboard. But we're not attaching this to our base just yet. So then we'll do the same thing on this bottom edge. Should have had these all pre-cut. I have all the rest of them pre-cut. I don't know why I didn't pre-cut these, but I didn't. I can cut fast. I'm running against the clock too, because I'm going to have a kiddo home from school in about 20 minutes. So the race is on. Can she get it done before the door opens? Alrighty. It goes fast from here on out. Alright. So we'll get these all on. Then we're going to make our roof, main roof. We're going to assemble that together. And then the upper roof. So this is good to go then. We can set it aside along with our base. You can see how that's going to attach down to our base like that. But now we're ready to make our roof. And the roof pieces start out as rectangles And in the pattern I give you a dimension to measure in from each side. Mark that, and then you're going to cut from that mark down to the bottom corner, and that is going to give you this mansard roof shape. Now these are going to attach together with our construction strips at the corners, just like we did with our box, but it's going to just have angled corners instead of straight corners. So we're going to attach it in the exact same way, putting our strips on a line. Again, unless I tell you otherwise, that fold is going to line up with the edge of your chipboard. And the seams are all going to butt up with each other. Oops, wait, I'm not doing these just yet. You didn't see me do that. These got to attach to our bottom piece first. We have a square that we're going to cut, allowing just a ½ inch around the edge. And this is what's going to sit then on top of our base. These guys are need to attach here, and I am out of construction strips, so I got to cut some like seriously mega fast for you guys. I cannot believe I didn't cut enough of them. Of course, do I have the paper? Oh, I had this all prepped. I spent hours yesterday prepping everything, and I thought I did enough construction strips. But alas, I did not. And black paper instantly appear. Oh, you're kidding me. This would be fun if this wasn't. You know what? These aren't going to show. Like, where is my black paper? There, found some. Alright. So let me mega seriously fast cut some strips. Looks like I just need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bead strips. All right. Then you're going to score these, as I said, down the center. And then you fold them. And add score tape on each side of your fold. Two more. Alrighty. So we'll attach the base of these trapezoid mansard roof shapes to that base ring with these strips, and then we'll do the corners to create that angled roof shape. Okay, so then just measure with my thumb. Of course, these are 11 inches, and if they were 6 inches, I could just cut the strips in half. But have my corners. Attach this on. Alright, so then we can attach these guys with our strips to this ring. Now this ring, the opening on this ring is approximately the same size as the body of the birdhouse, so that, whoops, there's open space up inside into the roof. For like maneuvering your mini album in and out. So attach these. The wider end, obviously, is the same width as our ring, and so those attach right down. Hate it when the paper won't come off. Terrible. Right. Butt that seam, line it up and butt it up and stick it down. And we got one more. Alright, so then we've got these corners that we can peel the paper off of them and bring this up into 3 dimensions. Again, you're just kissing those corners. Nobody's overlapping anybody. There we go. So that gives us that roof, and that roof is going to attach, and it should line up right with the edge of your chipboard inside. So there's that roof. So then we're going to make the upper section, and the upper roof is done essentially the same way, except instead of them being trapezoids, they'll be triangles. So just take, the trapezoids and squeeze them down to triangles. You'll mark the center point, cut from the center point to each of the corners, but we're going to bring those together and butt those all up in the same fashion that we did the others, except they're going to come to a nice little point at the center. Hard to see with the black on the black. I apologize for that. See, I had these guys all cut and ready to go. I don't know why I didn't have the others. So again, the butted seam, peel that off, stick it down. Boy, these are being ornate in terms of the paper pulling off. One of the reasons I like score tape is it does have a paper backing versus the plastic, because that plastic backing, I swear it's like it's magnetic and it sticks to everything. Okay, so then we've got this little gap thing, and when we bring it together, it makes our roof be at a peak. So those all come together and form our peaked roof for the top roof. So there's our 2 roof pieces, and then we have our upper section, and again we're going to form a ring out of these like we did from the main body, same way. And we're going to actually cover these with pattern paper in the same way as we did the base, except it isn't going to wrap onto, it's not a box, so it's not going to wrap onto the top, it's just going to wrap around the outside. And then this is going to form a ring. So there's our upper base and its roof that you'll attach on, and this is then going to attach this ring. Fits perfectly on the opening, and you'll be able to glue that on there. Now to cover these, you're going to cut pattern paper pieces that attach directly onto each of those 4 sides. You've got pattern paper that fits on each of these sections, and then you're going to do, out of a strip, just like we did on the base, you're going to wrap this around so it covers over this whole side. So once you have the pattern paper on this piece, your roof, and your top roof, you can then assemble these together. I'm not going to do that directly right now to take the time, but I'm going to glue this piece onto this roof, and then I will glue this roof onto that piece, and that's going to create that barn top roof like thing. You can then attach this onto, it's going to eventually attach onto here, not just yet. You're also going to have onto this kind of top section, you're going to have a square of chipboard, then you're going to wrap and cover with pattern paper, and then add a circle. As you'll see on the pattern, you're going to add a circle to that, and that's going to be for this piece right here. I just took a galvanized nail and put that in there as the perch, but that's the birdhouse opening, kind of the door. It's not a real opening, but then it gives you a contrasting color on there. Also, on your roof pieces at the corner, like a true tile roof, if you cut some 1/2-inch strips of the paper, score them in half and fold them round the corners, you can then apply those over the seams on this top roof as well as on this lower roof, and then it looks like the corner tiles like on a regular Spanish style roof. So you can add those pieces on there. After you get the roof pieces all put together, but before you attach this to your base, you're going to want to add your doors with the hinges. Now the doors are just cut from chipboard, and then you're going to cover them with your pattern paper. You've got the painted pattern paper here, so you're going to want to go with the unpainted pattern paper. You can wrap them, or you can just cover them to the edge, whichever it is that you prefer to do. You're going to then figure out placement for your hinges. So you're going to have some hinges that you're going to attach first to, I attach them to the door first. Now it's going to attach, the outside of the hinge is going to attach to the birdhouse, but it's going to attach to the back side of the door, as you can see here. So if I open the door up, the hinges are on the inside of the door here, and it's on the outside here. So you're going to attach that with some brads. Then to give it that real barn door look, you're also going to cover some 1/2-inch strips of your chipboard and attach those at the top and the bottom, and also at an angle. If you take your square piece of strip, lay it on top, you can then mark the angle and cut the angle. I attached these before I attached my hinges, and I ran into it with one of my brads, you can see. So I recommend going ahead and getting your hinges on first, and then you can put on this bracing. You're also going to attach a little closure to hold it closed. And then once you have your doors on, it's just easier to maneuver putting your hinges on and such when you don't have the base or the top attached, so that you can reach inside from each side. So I recommend going ahead and getting your doors put on before you attach your roof and your base. When you're ready to attach them, you're going to attach to your base first, and you're just going to use your construction strips and attach it down to the base. Before you attach this guy on, attach this on, and again you have your construction strips, and these are going to actually, when you're attaching this roof, we're going to fold these outside a bit beforehand, because they are going to wrap around this lip and attach here to hold this in place. If you prefer, you can also just glue this in place and not have those construction strips on there at all. Just got to get, now I folded them back and now they don't want to go inside. So then I attach it and I can reach inside and kind of wrap them around the ledge. But that's going to give you an opening the same size as this opening here into your roof. So that gives you some extra height up inside the birdhouse. So, but that will get attached down on top of there. And then once that's attached on here, there, you can go ahead and attach the rest of the roof lines to your birdhouse. And then you'll have your birdhouse. I do want to real quick show you how I make the pages for the mini album. Now it is a cozy squeeze in through here to get this. In fact, on this one, my opening is not as big as it is on the pattern. I made it a little bit larger when I did the pattern because it is tight to get this mini album in and around the corner. That's why you wanted that some space to be able to get that in through that opening. But it will fit. It's just tight. On the pages for this, and I did these out of some crafts, so it was easier to see on camera for the pages. You'll have two pieces that are identical, and I do have some corrections to the dimensions for these pages. I originally made this book, these pages, larger, and it would not fit inside the birdhouse, so I had to shrink them down. Unfortunately, when I was writing the pattern, I didn't get those corrections. So the pattern is now correct, and I will be emailing those who already had purchased the pattern the corrections. But they are about a 4 1/4 wide, and then you're going to be scoring 1/2 inch on each side, 1/2 inch at the top, and then at 3 3/4 up to form the bottom, or to form a pocket. But what we're going to do is we need to make these be mirror images. So at this score line right here, I'm going to notch it, and I'm going to trim this entire 1/2 inch strip off of one side, like so. I'm going to notch, or I'm going to do my corners, tab my corners as I call it, cut them at that slight angle at all these corners, as well as at this notch right here and down here at the bottom. Now I want this one to be the mirror image, so I'm going to cut it off of the opposite side on this one. Again, I'm going to tab all my corners. Make that notch there. Tab and tab. So as you can see, they're mirror image to each other. So then I can take and fold these guys in, and then we're going to fold this up and attach those down. That's going to form a pocket. These are going to fold under, and when we attach this to a backing, we're going to have a pocket here. So it's kind of a library pocket on the front and a side pocket. Go ahead and fold these tabs in. Okay, I should have a kiddo walking in the door at any moment. Fold these under. Okay, so again, they're still mirror imaged. We also have some little strips that we're going to fold in half and tab the corners. And this is to complete the pockets, to create that base pocket. So these are kind of like construction strips, and they are being attached at this open end here. Go ahead and glue that in place, lining the folds up with each other. So essentially we're just adding a tab at the fold. And I need to shut my door. Hang on 2 seconds. I'm filming, so let me be for a minute, okay? Sorry about that. I hope to have this done before he got home. Alright, so stick this one down. Probably should have done this video in 2 parts. So essentially now we have the tab on all 3 sides. And all 3 sides. So these are going to attach back to each other. We're going to glue these guys down to form pockets. So these 2 tabs, glue on those. Got glue all over myself. I'm not the best at glue. I do better with the tapes, as you can see, as I'm making a big mess all over the place with my glue. So anyway, that's formed the pocket there, and these tabs, when they attach down, are going to form a pocket that goes here. Do the same thing with this one. And then we're going to have a center panel that we are going to attach. Come on, tabs, fold under. There you go. There, this one's a little cleaner. Okay, so then we have a divider here. That's another piece. And it's scored. It's got 2 parallel scores. So we're going to fold it at both of them. The one closest to the edge, we're going to fold back on itself. So it forms kind of an accordion there. Now we're going to measure in. Let's see, what did I put on the pattern as to how far to measure in the holes. I'm going to come in about 1.25 inches and mark 1.25 inches in on each of those folds. So we've got our little markings, and then I'm going to take my crocodile or hole punch of some sort, and we're going to punch holes centered on the fold. So we centered them on the folds, and then on, where's my score tape? I can make a bigger mess on my desk than anybody I know. There it is. So then I'm going to take my score tape and run it down along one side, like so. I have about 1 foot or more of a twine, cord, narrow thin ribbon, and we're going to feed that up through those holes like that. So it's coming on the outside, it comes out the holes, and you want it to be to where the tails are pretty even. I'm going to kind of hold it in place a little while I peel the paper backing off of my tape. And while I keep my cord taut, I'm going to fold that over that cord. Burnish it in. So then you kind of have a page that has these 2 tails on it. And we have this piece here. These guys are then going to attach to each side of this. Now one fold should line up with that score line on this side, and you should have about the same amount hanging over on this side. This is where the pocket's going to be, because we've got these 3 sides that I'm going to attach down. We won't do the glue thing. Move the glue out of the way. Attach this last side down, and then you'll repeat that same thing over on the other side. So it's a pocket on each side on top, and a pocket that you enter from the side on each side. So you end up, each page has 4 pockets essentially. So again, this folded edge lines up with that score line on this side, and you attach the tabs down. So you'll have a pocket here, and you'll have a pocket here. The other one then will attach on the back side of the page. So that's what each of your pages is going to look like. You'll then be able to put a tag in here, a tag in here. So as you can see, and I made these tags. Dimensions all on the pattern. This is just a square and a strip cut at angles to form the body of the birdhouse. And then for the head, or not the birdhouse, the bird, the owl. Then on the head, I've taken and made some flapped tags. And then this is a triangle and 2 little triangles. Has some squares back behind. And these are just punch circles. The larger one, which was cut in half. And this is my hole punch. I just punched for his eyeballs. And then I've just added a little beak. And so this little hinge guy slips down inside of that pocket to create the little owl inside. And all the dimensions for all of this are in the pattern. Then there's also a tag that goes in, and I made it so that you have plenty of space for photos. It's a folded tag that slips down inside the pocket. Now to do this cover, it's a very simple cover on it, and I figured I could just talk you through this. It's in the pattern, it gives you all the dimensions, but you're going to cover a front and back cover as well as the spine, and they're 3 separate pieces. You can cover them to the edge, or in this case I did wrap them, and to wrap them you're going to add 1/2 inch on each side, wrap it to the inside and attach it, and then cover it with pattern paper. And I did front and back cover, and then also the spine. Then on the spine I had to make some holes, and these are 1/4 inch apart. I have 6 pages, so I have 6 holes, and the holes are the same distance apart as the holes on my pages, you know, those strings. You're then going to feed those strings up through the holes for each of the pages and bring them all together to the center and tie them. So as you can see on the inside, here's the little holes for each of the pages where they feed down through the holes. Real simple, easy way to do a little bit different binding, kind of fit with the more rustic theme of this birdhouse and this mini album, but super fast and easy to just feed those through the hole, bring them together. I tied each of them individually at the center, and then I brought them all together in a group and tied them all together once I had each of the 6 individual ones tied. The covers are attached then with these additional strips that are covered, and so these strips then attach to the front, the spine, and the back. This gives a little bit more interest look rather than it just being one solid piece. So it's going to attach with glue or score tape on each side. So these are slightly larger, the spine section is slightly wider on these than it is on the spine of the book. But as you can see, because you can see air through there, there's it's only the front and back covered, it's only attached with these pieces. So that's the cute little mini album and these fun this fun binding on this mini album. I really like how these go. It would be easy to do this on a larger scale, so it's not quite so tiny. But anyway, that is the October Bird Abode. You can then add some foliage and other elements along the roof, along the cover of your mini album, and then slip the mini album inside. It's a tight fit, as I said, in this one, so the opening in the pattern is larger than I have it on this one. But cute, fun. Add a little nail for your perch, and there's your October Bird Abode. So thank you all for joining me, and I should be getting November's Bird Abode here up real soon, if it's not up already when you're watching this. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much.